From the time the U.S. military purchased its first aircraft in 1909 and up to 1947, the U.S. Air Force did not exist as a separate and independent military service organization. It went through a series of designations: Aeronautical Section Signal Corps, Aviation Section Signal Corps, United States Army Air Service, and in 1926 it became the United States Army Air Corps, and in 1941, United States Army Air Forces. On 18 September 1947, President Harry S. Truman signed the National Security Act, which established the creation of the U.S. Air Force as an independent service equal to the U.S. Army and U.S. Navy. The official birthday of the U.S. Air Force is 18 September 1947. But nothing ever comes easy. As with all big corporations, there is always some type of controversy. The U.S. Air Force was no exception. Charles Lindbergh would never get to enjoy the lucky tag that had become synonymous with his name. While a member of the Army Air Corps, Lindbergh was opposed to the war with Germany and was not hesitant in voicing his opinion in the media. Criticized by President Roosevelt, he resigned his commission in the U.S. Army Air Corps. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, he requested to be reinstated, but was refused by the Secretary of War upon orders from above. However, he did find work with a civilian aviation company, and during the latter stages of World War II, flew 50 combat missions in the Pacific Theater, as a civilian. Billy Mitchell has long been called the father of the Air Force, but he also had his problems. During a congressional briefing, Mitchell argued that the military spent too much money on battleships and not enough on carriers. The result was a court-martial and reduction in rank. He resigned shortly thereafter. A note: during earlier briefings with the administration, he actually predicted that someday there would be an attack on the Hawaiian Islands by Japan. And this statement was made in 1924. The Air Corps also had its heroes. Jimmy Doolittle. Less than 4 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor, Doolittle led the first air attack on the Japanese mainland in April 1942. Doolittle received the Medal of Honor from President Franklin D. Roosevelt at the White House for planning and leading his raid on Japan. But what about the women in the war? Rosie the Riveter became an icon for the women who worked in the factories in support of the war effort. But there were women who flew. In the Army Air Corps, the Women's Army Service Pilots, or WASP. On August 5, 1943, the WASP was created. Over 25,000 women applied. 1,074 were accepted. Who even knew there were 25,000 women pilots at that time? Their primary mission? Relieving male pilots for combat duty. Between September 1942 and December 1944, the WASP flew 60 million miles of operational flights, delivering 12,650 aircraft of 78 different types to ports of embarkation and military training bases. They also towed targets for live anti-aircraft artillery practice, simulated strafing missions. Classified as civilians rather than veterans, they were not eligible for veterans' benefits. Finally, in 1977, the WASP was granted veteran status and given the Congressional Gold Medal in 2009. The recruiters sure had a good eye for talent. Elaine, the WASP who towed targets so the guys could have a little target practice, died in 2015 and was buried at Arlington National Cemetery on September 7th, 2016. Alvin Mayo Dunn, for whom this post was named, was also in the Army Air Corps. Just weeks away from deployment overseas, he died in a training accident in Shreveport, Louisiana.